The Saturday Social with Rachel Ryan. 98 FM.
Now, I know a lot of us are feeling quite overwhelmed this week with the announcement that level 5 will be extended until March. And a lot of people are just looking for a few tips to kind of help them get through the next few weeks. And joining me with these tips is psychologist John Francis Leader. John, thanks so much for your time on the show today.
Hey Rachel, how are you doing?
I'm getting on okay, John. You know, I'm surviving, as I suppose most people are saying at the moment. And, you know, of course, we got the news earlier this week that level 5 is to be extended. And, you know, I think that it really hit people quite hard this week, John, and I've heard it from people in the office and from friends that things that we've been doing up until this point, like, you know, going for our walks, doing a bit of baking, is not really doing it for people anymore. Why do you think that is, John? We're just fed up now.
Yeah, we rode the wave of the novelty factor a huge amount, almost this time last year, didn't we? You know, we really needed that. And there's a lot to that psychologically, because when something is a bit new, a bit novel, this idea we're all in it together, there's a kind of a buzz around that, even though it's kind of scary what was going on last year, of course, you know, ahead of it really sinking in. We didn't really know what to expect. Still, though, there's like, okay, this is a kind of a call to action. Let's all pull together and let's kind of stretch and explore different ways of being, staying at home, etc. But now, of course, we've kind of been there, done that for a while, and we're a bit jaded, I think.
Absolutely. We've kind of done the whole lockdown thing, not once, not twice, but now 3 times. So people are definitely a little bit over it, John. But we're going to try and stay positive today. We're going to keep people on the right track. So you have some brilliant tips today for us about practical ways that we can kind of get through the next few weeks.
Yeah, and these are nice, because if you had have asked me for these exact tips this time last year or almost this time last year, I would have had some tips, but these have been kind of road tested over the past year in working with people and, you know, trying to develop, I suppose, some of the key things that have actually kind of kept us sane over the past while. So I've put a few of them together for you.
Brilliant. And what's first up on the list?
So first one, this is a kind of an interesting one, which is mourning is the word, really. Kind of a sadness over what we've lost over the past year in a way. And it's kind of recognizing that that's okay. You know, and that's, I think, a really good starting point when it comes to trying to deal with this moment right now, that it's okay to feel a bit of loss for social events and plans and goals and things that you've had. You know, you may have been able to tolerate a few weeks or a few months without those things, but as it turns into a year or more, you know, for a lot of people, I think there's kind of a sadness around that. There's a feeling of loss. So I think one of the real key things to do with that is be able to check in and acknowledge those feelings. It's
a really good tip, I suppose, not to dwell on the sadness around this, but to acknowledge the feeling of, you know what, that was a bit crap that, you know, that wedding didn't take place, or I didn't get to go on that trip, but I suppose not to let it consume you. That's a really good one. What's up next, John?
So next is that, as hard as it might be to believe, that this is all temporary. And that this is the problem. When it becomes months and a year or more, it really doesn't feel like that at an emotional level. It feels like, oh God, it's always going to be this way. And we really do kind of forget that in the moment. But, you know, if you zoom out over the passage of time, pandemics have come and gone. Lots of things in our life have come and gone. So it's really important to be able to see it, I suppose, like the seasons in nature. That, you know, the spring and the summer and, you know, so on, autumn and winter, and that there is a bit of a cycle of these things. And you kind of get caught sometimes in winter and you think, oh God, is it always going to be like this? But it really isn't. So be able to look ahead a little bit, not to leave the now. We still need to live and enjoy the moment, but to be able to see ahead, I suppose, to, you know, what's to come.
I think that's going to be the toughest one for a lot of people to get their head around, John. I think because, you know, we've had, I suppose, end goals in sight for the past year that have been moved back. And I think that's what's been very tough on people this time. But I think you're so right to still really hold on and still look forward to those things that hopefully we'll get to do in the not too distant future. Now, next up on your list, I suppose it's still important to remember that even though we've done this before, we're in our third lockdown, I suppose there are still ways to use the time wisely and, you know, to get some things done during lockdown.
Yeah, because while the second point was about looking ahead to summer in a way, this kind of next point is about actually coming back to winter and recognizing that if you are a farmer, winter is valid as well. A lot of us kind of thought, hopefully, that maybe this won't last too long and, I can just hang on for a few months and we'll kind of be at least roughly on the other side of this. But actually, we're realizing this is taking a bit longer. So sometimes some of those maybe slightly bigger projects, things that are better done during winter time, so to speak, it's good to give a bit of time to that. And this can be things like learning. It can be things like planning a business idea. It can be other things like that actually are better done in times when we don't have all the distractions.
What's that saying, John, where summer bods are made in the winter?
Exactly. The way I phrase it is, don't waste a pandemic.
Yeah,
you don't want to be on the other side of this looking back thinking, oh my God, I'm so busy socializing and meeting people and traveling that now I don't have time to reflect and do that internal stuff.
Now, next thing on your list, I think, is very interesting because it's something that I do a little bit of myself. It's focusing, while we cannot control this pandemic, it's focusing on the little things in your life, I suppose, that you can control.
Yeah, uncertainty is a big part of this. And, as we were talking about a few minutes ago, that the problem is the rug keeps getting pulled from under us. We kind of think, well, maybe in a month or maybe in a few months even, and then we kind of go, oh, God, there's another delay. So this lack of certainty is a big problem. And for most of us psychologically, we'd rather even be told, you know what, the whole year is a write-off, but you're guaranteed then everything's okay. Even though that would be like, oh my God, at least if we knew we could plan and have some structure. So of course the problem is we don't have any reassurance around that. No, people don't know. We're trying to learn as we go. But what you can do when there's a lack of certainty in some areas is at least try and bring in certainty where possible in other areas, and to bring the attention back to the things that we can control to some degree, rather than spending a lot of time ruminating on the things we can't control.
Now, I think over the past year, John, a lot of people, particularly in the first lockdown, turned to their creative side during the lockdown, exploring things they haven't done before. Can we still get up to that in lockdown 3.0? Is there still the appetite there?
Yeah, I think it's important we do, and I think it's important that we're ambitious about it to some degree. It's classically, even this time of year when it comes to exercise, it's that feeling of, oh God, can I or should I get up in the morning? But when you do it, you feel great doing it. So there might be a similar jadedness, I suppose, this time around, but sometimes we need to be a bit more bold and a bit more ambitious. And kind of a way I like to think about this or put it is, be creative and do it anyway. Two different ways you can do it. One is obviously physically, if you can actually do it in some shape or form, some of your goals or ambitions, great. But if not, the other thing you can do is use the imagination and the virtual a bit more. So I know some people I'm working with are doing this at the moment with holidays. So they're thinking about that holiday. They're going on Google Earth or Google Street View and imagining they're on that holiday, and they're connecting with some of those emotions. So they're not letting the lack of ability to travel actually stop them from getting away. Wow. You can do these amazing tours. I did a tour just a couple of weeks ago of caves around the world.
Oh my God, amazing.
You can look around them in 360 degrees. And,
wow.
It's not quite the same as being in a cave, but it's that feeling of kind of having a new experience which breaks you out of, the mundane,
the mundane life. Yeah.
So be creative. And this will be different from person to person depending what your goals are. But don't allow the situation to just stop you. Still do it in a moderated form.
Absolutely. Well, listen, always great to chat. Psychologist John Francis Leader. You can check out more of his work on his Bodymindself channel on YouTube. Thank you so much for your time on this Saturday Social here on 98 FM.
Always great to chat.
98 FM.